Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my November wrap up. I'm so excited to talk about this month's books because I had literally the best reading month, like probably in a really long time. Like, one, I read so many books. Also, they were all, not all, but most of them were like really good, like definitely high up there on the list. So very excited to get into these. I have a lot of books to talk about, so I'm gonna try not chit chat too much and we're just gonna get right into it. First book I have is Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. So if you saw my Magnolia Parks reading vlog, you probably have seen my opinions on this. I ended up giving this book 5 stars. I literally cannot get enough of these characters. Like, I cannot wait for the next Magnolia Parks book to come out. I am so obsessed. The way this book ended literally shattered my heart. It's hard to talk about what happens in this book because it would give away a lot of what happens in the first 3 books in the series. So I can't really like explain it, but if you want to hear more of my opinions on Magnolia Parks, definitely go watch that reading vlog. I'll like link it up here or something. But definitely go watch that because you get a lot more of my opinions. But I'm obsessed with this book. Literally was so sad to end the series, or at least finish the series like for where it's at right now. I love these characters so much. I think about them literally all the time. It's just, oh my god, this book made me cry. Like, it was just so good. Next up is a very exciting book. I finally read Fourth Wing. I know this was like blowing up over the summer. I'm not usually a fantasy reader. I just have never really read fantasies other than like The Hunger Games when I was in like 6th grade. I don't know, I just have never really like been intrigued by them, but everyone and their mother was talking about this book. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna read it. And it was so good. It is truly making me want to get into more fantasy reads. I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. It wasn't like the most amazing book for me. I think because it was the first fantasy I read and I'm not usually used to that like sort of world building kind of stuff, so it took me a little bit to like get into it, but it was a really good book. And I'm not even gonna like talk about what it's about because I'm sure you already know, but if you haven't read it yet, which I don't know how you haven't, I feel like I was the last person on earth to read it, but if you haven't read it yet, you should definitely read it. Okay, then for my birthday, because my birthday was this month, I got a Kindle. So I have read quite a few books on Kindle, and I have so many books on Kindle, especially Kindle Unlimited, that I like really want to read now. So hopefully I'm going to be reading a lot more on my Kindle. But the next book I read was Caught Up by Liz Tomford. This is the 3rd book in the Windy City series. This is about Kai, and he's a baseball player, and basically he needs a nanny for the summer. He's firing all his nannies because he's a single dad, and he's like always finding something wrong with them. And his coach's daughter is taking like a little summer hiatus from her job. And so the coach basically says, my daughter will be your nanny. And Kai like really wants to not like her at first. He wants to find things wrong with her. But of course, like they form feelings with each other, and it's so sweet. There's a little bit of an age gap, but it honestly didn't bother me because I feel like it really wasn't mentioned very much, and it just didn't seem like a big deal. Also, the kid is so sweet. He's not mentioned a ton, but like he's in there a little bit, but honestly, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really sweet. I gave this one 5 stars. Literally the entire time, I was just like giggling, kicking my feet. Liz Tomford, I think, does an incredible job at like having these really funny, kind of like rom-com-y type scenes, but then also having these really sweet moments. And I just have eaten up every single book in the Windy City series. I'm so excited for more to come out. I've just absolutely loved it. Then of course Iron Flame came out, and I had to read it. I love that I got the book with the sprayed edges. I really wish that my Fourth Wing book had the sprayed edges because they would just look so nice next to each other, but it's fine. So this is obviously the 2nd book in Fourth Wing. It's hard to really say, again, what happens in this one without giving away a lot of stuff that happens in Fourth Wing, but I'm sure you've heard plenty of people talk about it. It was good. I will say I liked Fourth Wing more. I feel like this one had a lot more world building. There was a lot more like politics and details to get into, and it was a little bit difficult for me just to like kind of get through it. It took me a really long time to read. Like usually I read books in like 2 to 4 days, like if it's a long book, 4 days. This book literally took me like over a week to read. First of all, it's like significantly longer than Fourth Wing. It's like an extra 200 pages. Also, I'm sure you've seen, but the words on each page are super small, and someone said it's actually more words than Crescent City. And if you've ever seen Crescent City in the bookstore, that is a thick book. So the fact that this is technically longer than that, like, that's obviously why it took me so long to read. I feel like there was a lot of unnecessary details added in, I will say. I feel like there were a lot of like scenes and parts that could have been cut down. The pacing wasn't as good as Fourth Wing. I feel like Fourth Wing had a really, really good pacing. That's why it became so popular and blew up. But Iron Flame, I don't know, it was good, and I'm excited to like continue to read the rest of the series and see what happens, but I didn't like it nearly as much as I liked Fourth Wing. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Next, I read Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the second book in the Maple Hills series. So the first book is Icebreaker, which I loved Icebreaker. I think I gave it like 4.75 stars. It was one of my favorite reads so far this year. And this one, I was really, really looking forward to it. I was like, it's gonna live up to the hype of Icebreaker. And you know, I think there's something about authors' second novels or second books in a series. I know it's like a common phenomenon that they just don't always live up to the first one, especially if the first one was like super viral and super popular, as both Icebreaker and Fourth Wing were. So I feel like I went into this one with like super, super high expectations, expecting it to be just like Icebreaker. And unfortunately it wasn't. This is about Russ and Aurora, and Russ is part of the friend group of like Icebreaker. Like you meet his character a little bit, but this is more about him and Aurora on the last day of school have like a one-night stand. They don't think they're ever going to see each other again. And then they both go to the summer camp that they're working at as counselors and realize that the other is also a camp counselor there. So then there's kind of this like, well, we hooked up, but like, are we gonna just be friends? Do we like each other? Like that sort of thing. Also, camp counselors aren't allowed to like be together or date at all. So there's like kind of that like forbiddenness a little bit. I don't know. I just feel like Icebreaker had so much more like drama and just like, it made me want to keep reading. Whereas Wildfire, I feel like I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm kind of over it. Like they're clearly like each other and I feel like it's just kind of dragging out. Like the communication was good, like there was no miscommunication trope, which I'm like, a lot of times I get frustrated with miscommunication trope, but then when there's no miscommunication, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of bored. So I'm like, I'm kind of being a hypocrite there, but it was good. I feel like it didn't live up to the hype of Icebreaker, so I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. First I rated it 4, and then the more I sat on it, I was like, I think it's more a 3.5. Next up was another Kindle Unlimited book. It was The Inmate by Freida McFadden. This one is about Brooke, and she moves back to the town that she grew up in with her 10-year-old son because both of her parents died and she got their house in the will, so she moved back there, and she is a nurse and she starts working at a prison. And one of the prisoners there is her high school ex-boyfriend, Shane. And you find out that back in high school, Shane and Brooke and one of their other friends, Tim, were all at this house one night when a few of their friends were murdered. And Shane ended up being convicted for that murder. So Brooke is like, Shane killed them, he attempted to kill me, like all this stuff. Then like things start to get revealed and you start to find out things. I love Freida McFadden's writing. I think the way that she does her reveals is like so genius. She just knows how to get you to like want to keep reading and to just want to keep going to the next chapter. I love that she writes short chapters. I feel like her books are very fast paced. Like every book I've read by her, I've enjoyed. I wouldn't say they're like 5 stars best book I've ever read, but they're just fun and entertaining. If you like thrillers or mysteries, you would love Freida McFadden's books. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It was so much fun. I read it over Thanksgiving break and I literally couldn't put it down. I was gonna say I was turning each page, but I wasn't turning the page because I was reading on Kindle, but you know what I mean. I just like couldn't stop and I couldn't put it down. Then I read Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This is the newest book in the Chestnut Spring series. This actually came out in October, I believe, but I just read it and I just love this series so much, this world. I literally want to live in Chestnut Springs. Like, I need to go to an Eaton family dinner. Like, I'm just obsessed. This is about Bo, and he is one of the Eaton brothers. He was the brother that was in the military. He had something bad happen to him when he was there, and he's now like basically excused on medical leave for a long time. So he's kind of trying to figure out what he's going to do with his life. Like he always thought he was going to be in the military. Now that he's not, he's like, what do I do? He goes to the local bar and there's Bailey, the bartender, and this is age gap. He's like 30 something and she's 22. And I will say that did irk me a little bit. I've read books where age gap doesn't bother me, like Caught Up, like really didn't bother me there. This, for some reason, I feel like they focused on it a little bit too much. And he like really talked about how young she was like a lot. And I was like, okay, then why are you interested in her? if she's so young and like you think this way about her. Anyways, I got past that though because it was still really good. Bailey is from this family in the town that is like a bunch of drug addicts and criminals, and so everyone kind of looks down on her even though she is not a part of that. And she's like trying to get out of the town. She wants to go to college, but she's struggling because like she can't even get a job to save up money because no one wants to hire her because of her last name. So Beau kind of like gives her this deal where he's like, let's say we're engaged and then people will probably want to hire you because we're going to be married and whatever, and then you'll be able to get a job. And she's like, but what's in it for you? But for him, it's like it'll get his family off his back because they're all kind of worried about him after he's been home and everything. So they start fake dating and of course end up getting feelings for each other. And it is a sweet book. There were a lot of parts I really did enjoy. The age gap part just like really irked me for some reason. Just the way that they kept mentioning it, it was just really annoying me. Overall, I really did love it. I love how like protective Beau is. I love him so much. Overall, I did enjoy it, but that little part just wasn't my fave, so I ended up giving it 4 stars. The last book I read, I technically finished on December 1st, but we're gonna count it for my November reads, and that was What Happens After Midnight by Kale Walther. Kale Walther is the same author that wrote The Summer of Broken Rules, but these ones are not connected at all. This is about Lily, and she is a student at a boarding school. Her mom is faculty, so she lives in the faculty neighborhood, like right off of campus. She's always been a good girl. She's salutatorian, like everyone loves her, everyone knows her, all that kind of stuff. It's her senior year, and every year there is a senior prank, and it is put on by the jester, and no one knows who the jester is. And one day Lily gets a note from the jester saying, I need you to help me put on this prank. So she shows up one night on campus at midnight and finds out that the jester is actually her ex-boyfriend Tag. And the two of them, along with a couple other friends, basically put on this prank where they steal the yearbooks and hide them and then place all these clues around campus to help the student class president find them. Of course, they're sneaking around campus. They're not supposed to be out past curfew. And Tag and Lily start to kind of talk about their relationship and why they broke up and all this stuff. It was a cute book. It's definitely very YA. I feel like I got kind of bored by it. I don't know. I just was like not super obsessed with the storyline. It's a cute storyline. It's a cute idea, but I just wasn't like obsessed with it. Also, the romance was like very much a subplot. Like I was going into this expecting there to be more focus on the romance, and there really wasn't. It was definitely a subplot. It was more about the prank and like the jester and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, it just wasn't what I was expecting. I didn't love it. It was a cute story. If you're looking for like an easy YA read, I would recommend it, but it wasn't my favorite, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. So that is all for my November wrap up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so excited for the next few videos I have coming up in December, so definitely make sure to keep an eye out for those. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.